Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here with me today. It's a pleasure to be at my first Confidential Computing Summit. I couldn't be more excited to be here. So, to introduce myself, my name is Brittany Kaiser. I'm the CEO of Alpha Compute, NASDAQ ALP. We are an AI infrastructure company that is focused on making confidential computing available to all. And my talk today, I'm going to address what I believe are some of the most important topics around data protection, data ownership, and our ability to really have digital sovereignty by making sure that we can ensure privacy all the way down to the hardware level, and why the stack needs to change before the rules on digital sovereignty can. So a little bit more about me. I didn't start my career as a technologist. I started my career as a human rights lawyer. So I came to the technology space from a completely different angle, which is how can we use technology in order to make the world a better place? How can we use tech in order to improve people's lives? And I started doing that for organizations like the United Nations, for Amnesty International, and on political campaigns for people that I believed were going to take office and improve the lives of their constituents. Now, as I got deeper into the technology space, and especially on the human rights side, I realized that just using data-driven systems, like some of the first data-driven political targeting platforms that I built while I was on the Obama campaign, that eventually there would be much more complex systems that I needed to start to understand. I was writing my PhD on something called preventive diplomacy and early warning systems. So I was looking at what types of real-time data were governments, militaries, and international organizations able to collect and model in real time in order to predict crisis before it happens. So you could prevent things like war and drought and save lives before any of these things actually happen, because you would see them coming. And I realized I definitely did not know enough about data science from a legal perspective. I really needed to know about it from a technical perspective in order to finish my doctoral work. So I joined then quite a little startup, which is now quite an infamous former company called Cambridge Analytica, as a part-time consultant in order to learn enough about data science to finish my doctoral thesis. But in my over 4 years at that company, I learned a lot more about data than I bargained for. I worked in over 50 different countries around the world, serving governments, militaries, political parties, and companies, building out what was really early AI infrastructure. We had built out data centers and physical architecture, and then build bespoke models for our clients so that they could use those both internally and externally for targeted campaigns, whether from the government or political or military side, and companies, data-driven advertising as well. But because I was a human rights lawyer, not a technologist, I started to see red flags in the way that the global data industry functions, which it seemed like billions of people around the world were having all of their data collected, bought, sold, traded, and used without their explicit consent for purposes that they would probably never consent to if they actually knew what was going on. And it started to seem to me that the way that technology functions was not compatible with human rights. So eventually, I left Cambridge Analytica as a whistleblower and have spent the past 8 years in government investigations, lawsuits against big tech companies, and creating both legislation, regulatory precedent, and the first case law on data ownership as a property right and your ability to own your data from the time you create it and have consent and permission structures and tracking and traceability rights around custodianship and fiduciary responsibility of people who are using data sets. And then your ability to actually own revenue coming out of your data. So I've helped write and pass over 60 different laws on these topics in the United States. I sit on multiple US congressional committees on fintech, digital innovation, technology, and ethics. And I have done both expert witness testimony as well as testifying on behalf or against technology bills around the world. And I do a lot of trainings for governments, whether parliamentary briefings or congressional briefings, and usually training at Fortune 2000 boards on these topics. So it's been a long journey over the past 8 years to where I can actually be in a room full of people that agree with me that everyone should own their data and have fully encrypted data workloads. It's really a pleasure to be amongst everybody in this room, because what I learned while I was at Cambridge was that the world's most valuable asset is our data. The personal data that we produce, our intellectual property, our copyrights, our patentable information, if you're a government, classified information, all of your intelligence and your content and your value that you produce every day is quantified in these ones and zeros. And it's the reason why most of the world's most valuable companies are companies that have been collecting people's data for most of the time that they've been around. And so, how did we get to a place where data is the world's most valuable asset, yet most of us as individuals haven't really had too many rights to the data that we produce. We, as the producers of the world's most valuable asset class, have not really had the ability to own that from a legal perspective, a regulatory perspective, and from a technological perspective. The growth of confidential computing now is the first time that this is really going to be possible. And it's still so niche. The people in this room are all of the thought leaders in this space. And even if you've been working on this for decades, still 99% of the world has never heard of this. Probably closer to 100% of the world has never heard of this. And we got here because technology is inherently extractive. It is meant to take as much data from you all of the time without your explicit knowledge. Terms and conditions, which, has anyone in here ever read terms and conditions of apps that they use? Anybody? Bueller? Yeah, exactly. Nobody does. But they're written in 40, 50, 60 pages of legalese, which in law school they tell you that means that's how you trick people to not read the thing. It's designed that way so that you don't read it and you don't know what you're giving away, which it's not exactly very ethical. And with my work with the FTC, we've said that's really kind of against consumer protection standards at this point as well. So now you've probably seen that more terms and conditions are bullet points. There's more toggling where you can clearly see in 1st to 3rd grade reading level what you're agreeing to and turn it off. That's, I've been working a lot on that over the past decade, and it's getting there, but it's not the be-all, end-all solution. So how are we unprotected? I would say a decade ago, it was really that, our data could be purchased and licensed and matched from companies like Experian and Infogroup and Axiom, and then you could go and match that to your digital life for another, couple billion data points. But in the age of AI, it's completely different. You are giving up more than just your commercial and behavioral data sets. You are giving up everything, your thoughts, your fears, your emotions, your mental health, everything you're producing for your company, your ability to actually be an entrepreneur and have a patent that stands up in court, and you're giving that away to platforms that own everything that you're giving to them, and it's no longer yours. So what are we really trying to achieve here at this conference? It's to create trust. Trust, in the encryption industry, we really say, don't trust, verify. We're not trying to build trustworthy systems. We're trying to build trustless systems so that you don't have to trust who you're interacting with or sharing data with. You can mathematically prove that your data is yours and it's not being shared non-consensually with other parties. So in the age of AI, I really believe that trust is the ultimate currency, and being able to build trustless systems is the most important thing that we could be doing. So what do I mean by digital trust? Digital trust is, firstly, transparency. What data am I sharing and where is it going? And consent mechanisms. Do I consent for my data to be shared with certain parties? Where is it going to? Who is going to get access to it? Can I revoke that access? Can I say no? And then accountability of where that data is going to and how it's going to be used. And if there is a data breach, do I have any rights? Do I have any legal recourse? The first case law that I won at the Supreme Court, I won the first case against Equifax for the data breach, where they had not updated their systems over 2,000 times and missed hundreds of patches. The lawyer that I worked with, who also structured the Taylor Swift v. Spotify case, said that it was like leaving the lights on in your house with the doors open and music playing and expecting no one to come inside. We won at the Supreme Court in the state of Minnesota for property damage. That was the first case won against Equifax that made the whole national decision. And that meant that, in Supreme Court case law, we now own our data as our property because we experienced property damage for that data breach. So accountability is quite important, but that's from my legal point of view. What I really believe most strongly in is data ownership. So our rights to own our data like a property. So if you think about the Airbnb model, if someone wants to use your house, which is your property, they tell you who they are, how long they want to use it for, how long they're going to be there, how much they're going to pay you, and you get paid before you hand away the keys. And if they mess up your property, you have legal recourse and you get paid in order to fix it. That's what data ownership means. You own your data as your intangible personal property, which we passed the first law in the state of Wyoming in 2018 that gave you those rights. And more increasingly, digital trust is also sustainability. So how can we own our own compute power, especially in the United States of America, where we're currently experiencing a big pushback on being able to build our own data centers sustainably, and what that means for the environment and for local communities. So a little bit more about Alpha Compute, the company that I co-founded last year. I think I've got about 20 of my colleagues in the audience, if you guys want to put your hands up. Yeah, thank you guys for being here. So we are a full stack vertical integration company focused on making confidential computing available to the entire world. But we are focused more at the bottom of the stack: energy rights, mineral rights, semiconductors, storage, batteries, converters, grid connections, real estate, so the land and the data centers, and then hardware. So GPUs, RAM storage, networking, racks, liquid cooling equipment, things like that. And then we partner on the middleware and software side, where we can integrate with any software product that ensures confidential computing. It just depends what our clients want, from government, military, enterprise, and individual developers. We are happy to use any software and middleware stack on top of our hardware in our data centers on our land. So a lot of people here that I've met yesterday, we are very excited to partner with you all in order to have end client delivery for confidential computing. Our divisions. So firstly, Alpha Sovereign, that is focused on our government and military work and ensuring data sovereignty for national security. Alpha Capital, where we have created various financial products in order to get exposure to compute power as an asset class, which has widely been considered over the past many months one of the most important new asset classes on the planet. So that's everything from GPU compute funds to futures and other types of products that can allow people to invest into this space. Alpha Studios, where we create educational and awareness content on data protection, privacy, data ownership, and digital sovereignty, how important it is and how you can access it. And Alpha Games, where we have hundreds of millions of users that can try out our confidential computing products in gamified ways so that we can improve them and create the best products. We have incredible leaders working with us from many different verticals who have been very successful in technology, fund management, and creation of financial products. And something that I'm very excited to announce today. Firstly, I would like to ask quickly, who in this room has seen news over the past month or targeted information on social media complaining about AI data centers being built in America? Yeah, a lot more than people who have read terms and conditions. Okay. So I don't know how many people here noticed that when President Trump and the CEOs of most of our biggest AI companies in America went abroad to China and were not paying attention and away from their desks, all of a sudden there was a sweep across America crazy disinformation campaigns about how AI data centers are going to destroy our country, and we should create a moratorium and build no more AI data centers in America. So interesting, huh? I've seen a lot of cyber warfare campaigns, but this is one of the most special ones I've seen in a long time. Now all of a sudden there are people saying not in my backyard to data centers. Now there are people that seem to care about water pollution. I started my career as an environmental activist. I've never seen so many people care about birds and water in my entire life. This is so interesting. All of a sudden, because people are mad at AI and foreign adversaries decided to take advantage of that, there are now people all over this country that are very mad that we want to build data centers and own our own compute power for national security purposes. So if we don't build any more data centers in the United States, where do we have to send our data to process AI? Certainly not America, right? Because we don't have enough data centers for our own compute power. So today I'm launching with a number of amazing commercial partners and support from our government, the Right to Compute campaign. You might have noticed last month that there were 300 bills dropped across states in the US in order to create a data center moratorium. Many of those have actually been passed, and even data centers that are in the middle of being built, where computers were even being shipped there, are now paused because local people have said, we don't want any more AI in our community. We're against this. I think that is probably one of the most dangerous things that could possibly be happening in our country, and our right to be energy independent, build our own data centers and process our own AI locally within our borders and not send our data abroad is one of the most important things that we could come together on. So we will be dropping right to compute bills to compete with those data center moratorium bills in every single state across the US, and also working at the federal level in order to make sure that Americans understand the importance of processing our data within our borders, and having data security is national security in the end. So that campaign launches today, and anyone that is interested in getting involved, please go to right2compute with the number 2.com. You can also scan this QR code in order to partner on this campaign, because I think everybody here would really love to be able to continue to grow their businesses. And if we are not able to run our own stacks within this country, that is going to be a lot harder. So we would really love all partners that are interested in co-authoring bills, co-sponsoring bills, showing up and testifying in their local Congress. That would be amazing. I think most people here can agree that we would love to be growing our businesses in the United States. Of course, we also have data centers abroad, and we're super happy to work with clients around the world in building data centers abroad as well. But in the United States, this is the first time I've ever seen an attack on our entire industry. And especially on the confidential computing side, if we really want all Americans, American companies, and our government to own our data, then that needs to be processed here. So we very much welcome partners. Again, can everyone from Alpha Compute raise their hands so that people here can come find us if they want to get involved with that? There's a lot of us. So we would really love that, and we're grateful for anyone that wants to join in. So this is how you can contact us. We're alphacompute.ai. We are really excited to work with everyone in this room in delivering your confidential computing stack to our end clients. We have clients all over the country, all over the world, in the public and private sector that are very excited to get access to fully encrypted workloads. Some of it is an education process. Some people are reaching out to us specifically because they want this. And we're completely, as I said, software and middleware agnostic. So we're really excited to work with everybody here to put your stacks on our GPUs and ensure that everyone that we are working with has the true ability to own their data and have digital sovereignty. So thank you again. I'm Brittany Kaiser, CEO of Alpha Compute, and I look forward to meeting you all.